When we think of German games these days, there is a very clear picture that comes to mind. Games that have straightforward mechanics, very often an economic components, that have little luck, that have a certain rational aspect to it, that are about planning and so on and so forth. So much so that today German game is a category, described as a category of games not necessarily originated in Germany. Well, here we have two German game designers that I think didn't get the memo, because the game that they designed, that I'm talking about today, Smugglers, is not at all what you expect from a German game if you're applying the category. It's a game designed in Germany, but it is very different from, again, the recent tradition of German games. What is this about? Players play the role of apprentices in a school for smugglers. What? Yes, that's really strange enough. And their job is to learn to push heavy sacks full of loot through holes in a fence. They need to demonstrate to their boss that they're good at this, that they can push the largest possible sacks full of loot through those holes. But how do you achieve this? Through two interesting mechanics. One is bluffing, one, a very well-known mechanic, making balls with modeling clay. Got you there. That is not a well-known mechanic, in case you had missed the irony. What? That is something that I've never seen in a game before. Definitely made me curious about the game. Let me show you how smugglers work, and then we'll talk about the oddity that this game is, and whether or not these odd mechanics come together in a way that makes sense and is entertaining to play. Players in the game play the role of apprentice smugglers, and this is the boss that is testing them. And the boss will go around a strange piece of equipment, telling them the holes in the fence through which they should try to smuggle their goods. And then later, the boss will meet with them in this room to evaluate their performance. Let's start from the beginning though. Each player has a screen representing the character, indicating the color of the character. Each player has three diamonds, so three different colors. They represent treats. That's the kind of stuff that you are smuggling. Chocolate, lime. You're smuggling red treats, which are sweet treats, and yellow treats, which are sour treats. You also have a stink bomb that is used to dazzle your opponents and to steal stuff from them. Also, most importantly, you have some of this funny modeling clay here. Each player has a blob of such clay in the color of the character. And you have, again, the screen behind which you do your stuff. At the beginning of a turn, a player, doesn't matter who, rolls this die. And then the boss will move on that track there by the number that was rolled. I rolled a 2, 1, and 2. If a red number was rolled, then the players will have to commit to explain what, before they know what happens. The player will have to create their ball of clay. Again, in a second we'll explain what that means. After they create their ball of clay, they roll the die, and then the number that comes out will be the number of spaces by which the boss moves, which will indicate in turn the track and the hole that will be used. So basically, if you roll a red result, you do not know in advance the hole that will be used. But suppose that we do know that is the hole that we need to use this turn. Once the players know that, the players secretly select one of the three gems that they have, and they use this clay here to form a ball that they will wrap around the gem that they select, like this. There is also a timer, just to make sure the players don't take too long. Once the players have their ball, suppose this is mine, and we're gonna prepare another one for another player using this color here. We're gonna prepare another one. Here we go. Now we're gonna make it really big, or a little bigger. So once the players have their ball, they will, one after the other, place them on the track that has been selected by the boss, and push down the little ball and hope that it will go through the hole. Now you see those circles there, that is a general reference of how large the hole is. Not all holes are large the same, but you're not allowed to put your ball there and to measure or to get any closer. You just look at it and try to gauge to what it makes sense. For reasons that will be explained later, you want your ball to be as large as possible as long as it still fits through the hole. So the green player goes first, and he went through. Hooray! To celebrate the fact that your ball went through, it goes down here to the bar, sits on his stool, and waits to see what the other players have done. Now, purple player goes... Oh, oopsie, that is too big. If it's too big, but just by a little, you can try again, remodeling it, changing the shape a little bit. Sometimes that does help, but you're not allowed to take stuff off. But I think this one is simply just too big to make it. If you don't make it, then you need to go to the junk room. Oh, so sad. But here, surprise, for the sake of the example, la 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 la. But here, surprise, for the sake of the example, we have a third player, and the third player makes it through. So the third player also goes to the bar here, gets a drink. By the way, that bar, they drink cover drinks, preschool style. Maybe it's because it's smugglers, so they're afraid if the police storms in, they can grab their drink and run away and not spill it. Or maybe it is just so they clarify this is not underage drinking, they're not drinking alcohol, otherwise our kids, we must protect the kids. But teaching them that smuggling is fine, that is perfectly normal. Now, after all players went through that ordeal, their ball will be either in the junk room or in the bar. Then it is time for the guys that are in the bar to go and meet with the boss. And the best smuggler will get armchair number 1 and the second number 2. And if there are more players in the bar, they will simply not make it in there. If you're playing with 2 players, then you only use armchair number 1. What happens next is a little convoluted to explain, simply because the rules had to cover all cases based on all possible number of players. And what happens when everybody is in here, or everybody is in the junk room, or different combinations of people are here. In general, the people that make it here, they will check to see who has the largest ball, because the larger ball is more valuable to the boss. You show that you can pull a larger sack full of smuggled goods through the fence. That is good. And in case it's obvious, then you simply place them in order. And in this case, I would say that they got conjoined. I would say that yellow is bigger than green, so yellow is preferable. But in case there's any doubt, look at this. You have this nice scale, which of course made others insist on using any time, even if there is no doubt whatsoever. Then we wait. So that one goes first, and that one goes second. Then, starting with this player, and depending on the number of balls that are in there, the player that is sitting in armchair number 1 gets a chance at guessing what the other players, well, one of the players in the junk room has put in their ball. What is the good that they're trying to smuggle? And suppose that this player tries to guess, I think you selected red. Now let's see what happens here. Hooray for the player that was in the junk room, because the player that is called the inspector guessed incorrectly the selection of the inspected player. Now, the inspector did guess correctly, and the selection in the diamond in the ball had been a red or a yellow. The inspector would get a token of the corresponding color. There are only 2 colors, red and yellow, and would add that to his or her personal supply. If the inspector had guessed correctly and the correct answer was the stink bomb, which is the purple diamond, then what happens is that the inspector would receive the stink bomb and would be able to use it later, would put it behind his or her screen. Usually the stink bomb only works one unless you defuse it by figuring out that the opponent has it before the opponent gets to use it. If the inspector had guessed incorrectly, like in this case, I said red, but this was yellow, Then the inspected player had the yellow or red, then the inspected player gets a token of their color. So even if you messed up, as long as the winning players don't figure out what you have, you still have a chance of getting a token. Red or yellow was the original selection to put in there. The inspector missed their guess, then you get a token of the corresponding color. If the inspected player had a stink bomb in there, the stink bomb goes off in the face of the inspector. And now that player, the inspected player, may take a smuggle token, red or yellow, from the inspector. After that, the stink bomb has been used and cannot be used. Oh, the stink bomb, this one. The stink bomb has been used and cannot be used again. Again, it seems very convoluted, but the idea is that you guess right, you get something. You did not guess right, the opponent gets something, which may be from the general supply or from you if the opponent tricked you with a stink bomb. Then the players, again, multiple players may get to inspect the players depending on what the situation is and how many players are sitting in the office with the boss. Then the players that were not inspected open their own sacks, their own bags, and if they had color tokens in there, red or yellow, they get a token of the corresponding color. If they had a stink bomb in there, after they went successfully through the thing, then the player that is using the stink bomb from there gets to steal a token from another player. And the rules say that after you do that, you place your stink bomb that you use there in front of your screen. Elsewhere in the rulebook, that means that you cannot use it anymore, and I take it to mean the same thing here. Pretty much, if you use the stink bomb to steal something, either when you were inspected or when you were here, the stink bomb is gone. Otherwise, you can preserve it and it can be stolen from you if it is found by an inspector during the inspection phase. You continue like this until the players have collected enough tiles to win the game. Usually it is 7 red tiles or 7 yellow tiles or 5 and 5. The game that way is a little long, and the rules also suggest that you can play it at 5 red or 5 yellow or 4 and 4. And of course, you can simply change that amount to any amount that fits your group. The first player to collect the right set of tokens is the winner of the game. Well, the game clearly looks and feels and probably is gimmicky to an extent, but I must say, what it does, it is to challenge some skills that probably didn't know you had. I don't know how much training you had engaging the size of a hole and modeling a ball that would roll through that hole. This is definitely something that we are all on the same ground. We all start from the same point. And this clearly is a game for the little ones mainly. It's mainly for children, definitely a game that children can play. I can play it with both of my daughters. One is 4, Louisa, and one is 6, Amelia. They both enjoyed it very much. They both had some problems figuring out, but they took it as an interesting challenge, and they got slowly better. If we keep playing it, they'll get better at this. I do not know how much they will use it in life, but actually there is a certain way that their mind works that is challenged to work in a way that it usually doesn't. There is some eye-hand coordination in a sense. They practice their fine motor skills. So for the kids, it's an interesting challenge. For the adults, there is the novelty of it. And the challenge is smartly constructed because you want your spheres to be small enough that they will go through the hole, and yet big enough, heavy enough to outweight those of the opponent. So you get to score them. You get an extra chance of scoring them, or getting more stuff. It's an interesting idea. And then the bluffing element. Again, on one hand, it's not a dexterity game. How do you define this? A gauging game. It's not a dexterity game exactly. But you have definitely something that is sensorial, highly sensorial, tactile, manual, together with bluffing, which is completely abstract idea. And that there's bluffing element, even though it looks like it doesn't have anything to do with the manual aspect, And if you look closely, it really has nothing to do with it. Still, somehow, it's entertaining to find the two of them together. Maybe this is the point, not that they are connected somehow, but the variety of the two halves of the game, really. One is about making the right sphere for the right job, and the other one is about tricking the opponent, which happens both behind and after, to trick the opponent when you select what you place in your sphere, and then to be able to read what the opponent may have done based on the kind of tiles that you see they have, that you remember they have, what is it that they may try to do next. Did they actually create a sphere that is so silly that maybe they wanted to go to the junk room and they're tricking you into trying to inspect it and there's a bomb in there, or were you just distracted and incompetent? Are they going for the tile that would complete the set because they already have for the kind, but in which case probably you know that it's likely that they will go for that tile, or maybe they're going for the other tile that is apparently less likely, but still, if you build both types of scoring tiles enough, you still get to win. So maybe I have 4 reds, you think my piece must be a red, but maybe it's a yellow, and then I do it again, and then I do it again, and all of a sudden I'm almost there, I've almost won. So the bluffing element is completely unrelated, feels completely unrelated to the manual element. But it's fun. It's pretty entertaining. Now, again, it's a game mainly for the kids. I had such a good time playing with my kids, but I must say, in a sense, possibly is because they were enjoying it so much. They were really into the game. They enjoyed the idea. They were really excited, manipulating the thing, trying to guess what the opponent may have. They're terrible at it, but they had fun doing it. In a sense, this is not a family game in the tradition of, say, Karuba or King of Tokyo that you play with your kids and you're simply having fun the same way they do. You just immerse yourself in the design the way they do. It's again both adults and kids are playing in the same frame of mind. It is mainly for the kids. Per se, it is not that enjoyable, but they were enjoying it so much that some of that joy sort of irradiated on me. The vibes that came from those little bundles of joy were so good that also had a beneficial effect on my mood and on my experience. I enjoyed playing with my kids and see how much they were liking it. I don't think this is a game that would be very entertaining when played in a group of adults only, unless, I don't know, they're heavily intoxicated, then it can be fun, but most things really end up being entertaining in that condition, so I don't think you need to buy this game just for that, as a prop, for a drinking game. But if you do have young kids and you want to expose them to an experience that definitely they haven't tried before, or just for the novelty of it, you want to try a game that really doesn't resemble any other game that I've seen, kudos for the originality, definitely. Then Smugglers, credit where credit is due, definitely deserves some praise for the originality, for the crazy idea behind, for associating mechanics that clearly resonate with kids in a game that seems to be made for kids with a topic that is absolutely inappropriate. There's also that joy. Oh yeah, now we're gonna learn how to smuggle goods, and then we're gonna go to a bar to celebrate about it, because this is what happens in the game. And then we're gonna go to the evil boss, and we hope that we please the criminal. My daughters were so confused because we are all into good guys, bad guys, Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker. Where are we? What side of the Force are we? One of them. Choose one. Doesn't matter. So, it's an odd game in so many ways. The mechanics, the theme that clashes with the target audience, and yet somehow turns out to be enjoyable. It's not a great game, but it is a game that, with the right crowd, which in most cases will be a young crowd, can be entertaining because of its oddity, because of originality, and simply because rolling those spheres of modeling clay down that slope. It's fun. What can I say? It's fun.